On today's hyper-masculine episode, we pitch you on Fight Club. We take a look into both the book and 1999 film by David Fincher. Also, spoilers. Duh. Are you Tyler Durden? Am I? Are we all Tyler Durden? I don't know, but maybe you probably won't find out on The Pitch Pod. Welcome to the Pitch Pod. We are the Pod Troopers? Maybe? Okay. And we are here to pitch you on all things nerdy, geeky, dorky, dweeby, and lame. I'm actually going to introduce ourselves now. I am your host, Grant, and I have with me Victor.
What up, guys?
And Andrew.
Hello.
Cool. Is that a good enough introduction for y'all? That satisfy the voice matching requirements?
I was thinking it'd be flavorful if you opened up the pods with like references to each individual thing that we pitched.
Yeah, I was gonna do that, and then I kind of forgot for a second that we pitched Fight Club, and so I was like, Starship Troopers.
That's what I caught that. I was like, Pod Troopers. I'm like, we did Starship Troopers like last week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago. I don't even fucking remember.
Speaking of Starship Troopers, I wanted to do a update from the last episode. For those that weren't there with us, we pitched Dread and Starship Troopers. And in our Starship Troopers discussion, I mentioned that the original adaptation of Starship Troopers was a 6-episode anime from 1988 or something like that. And I watched it all. It was bad. It was, so I guess first off, I have the issue with TV and movies. I don't know if you guys are the same, where even if I hate something, if I start it, I have to finish it. Like, I can't go in and like drop something halfway. So yeah, it required me to kind of suffer a little longer than I had wished. But anywho, so first off, the Starship Troopers anime never actually got localized in the West. So what it was a laser disc transcription that was fan dubbed, which is already recipe for not success. Apparently, it was closer adaptation to the books, even though it was giant mecha.
Why didn't they just use lines from the movie and just transcribe them onto the Japanese one?
I don't know, man. I obviously haven't read the book or anything along those lines, so. But apparently it follows the book. I mean, it is 80s anime, so it's still frame after still frame. The acting is horrendous. The pacing is god-awful. The characters are trash, etc., etc.
I'm kind of really interested in like hearing the Japanese interpretation of an Argentinian.
Oh, yeah. Juan Rico. It's Juan Rico, but he's, white guy, blonde hair, blue eyes.
That makes sense, given Argentina's history.
Yeah. And if you want to make the claim that it was for the like nationalist or the globalist theme, there is no themes in this anime. It is just
so. What's the animation style? Is it like Speed Racer or
essentially? Really? I mean, it's like before. Yeah, like there wasn't too many advances
in anime technology,
right? Or just animation in general. But anywho, the one amazing, beautiful saving grace of this thing. And I kind of wanted to blind pitch, not really, but just really share with you all the glory of the music of the Starship Troopers OVA. So in your show notes, you'll see my link. And this is, what is his name?
Robert Paulson.
Hiro Tsunoda in all of his glory.
That was super weird.
Weird as in
amazing? It gave me ABBA vibes. At the beginning, I thought I was like, this is a ripoff of an ABBA song. I swear to God, I've heard this. And then the girl turns into a seagull in the credits because she represents. I don't even know what the symbolism is.
I don't think there is symbolism. Yeah. I think it's just kind of a cool shot of a girl turning into a seagull.
And I also missed the note where it was cool shot of a girl turning into a seagull. No, man. No, hard disagree with you there, dude.
No, the music is clean. Look up Hiro Tsunoda. He is just a Japanese dude with a jerry curl, and he is just the pinnacle of 80s funk. Japanese funk.
That was something.
You can't tell me
It
otherwise.
also took me a minute to realize that your show note said, like, skip to this time. So I was literally watching this anime for like 2 minutes.
For a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, this video is only a minute
And I'm
long.
just like, where's the music? Nothing's happening.
Right. I'll make sure to have a definitive time marker.
No, that was on me. That was on me. Yeah, that was weird. Japan is weird.
Japan is very weird, but also amazing. I was going to make a speaking of Japan line transition, but I don't think either of us have anything that is Japanese related.
Speaking of Japan, Mass Effect has been delayed until next quarter. What the hell, Japan?
You want to talk about it, Victor?
I do want to talk about it. Actually, I'm moderately upset that the remakes have been delayed. But you know what? It's because
After they hadn't been announced.
Why is because Mass Effect ones do what? Oh, right. You're right. Well, haven't they though? They like teased it a little bit at the least.
I think the problem is that they preserved it, and the gameplay is bad.
I mean, I get that. Honestly, like the action in 1 is probably the weak. It's not probably. It's definitely the weakest out of the 3. 3 having what I would think is the best combat. I heard Andromeda's combat was fantastic. So I guess technically that would count. But yeah, 1's combat wasn't exactly the strongest, and they're trying to find a way to preserve it in a way so that people can experience the improvement as the trilogy goes along. And I'm honestly at the point where I'm just like, just remake the combat system for 1. Just, it's fine. I'll understand why you did it. The fans will understand why you did it. Just improve the combat system. As if they keep the role play, like all the role playing options open, then I don't give a shit. Because as far as I'm concerned, like the story for 1 is the most coherent. So that should be the most important element that they preserve. But I mean, at the end of the day, who gives a shit, right? Because if they're gonna delay it until next quarter, I'm pretty sure the world ends on December 31st of this year. So so what's the point?
Yeah, not really in a great forward trajectory, are we?
Next time on the Pitch Pod, Fatalism by Victor.
Oh, we did Berserk.
That's fair. That is very fair. We did. It would be consistent with what I pitched.
I can't wait for the day that Victor pitches us on Strawberry Shortcake.
Tangled.
I did like Tangled. No, I'm kidding.
Tangled's kind of, that movie slaps. Andrew.
Yeah.
I hear something about crunching.
Yeah, this is just a follow. Like, I figure if Victor is doing a follow up on Mass Effect, I'll follow up on the CD Projekt Red. We had the discussion a little while back where Victor was like, they don't want to crunch. They're fine. I was like, oh, they're definitely crunching. And the head of the studio has now come out and said, we're going to work 6 days a week and for the next 6 weeks until this game is shipped. Now, the caveat to that is they do get paid more, which is not industry standard, as if you can believe it. Support your union. So
you might want to repeat that.
Oh, I was like, I can hear you now. We're good.
So yeah, they're just trying to roll out this game and breaking people's minds and bodies and wills to do it.
It's got to be done.
Gamers being gamers.
Oh, I said it's got to be done. Facetiously.
Well, that is the opposite stance you had the last time we talked about it. Last time it was, I could take some time. I can wait for a game. Apparently, but CD Projekt Red did not think anyone would agree with you. So they have avoided pushing it back again. We are looking at... And I don't understand, like, it's a giant open world game that's gonna be buggy as anything once it gets put out into the world anyway. Like, you're gonna have to wait for 3 patches before the Skyrim-esque bugs of people getting stuck in chairs are worked out. So... But it's a big AAA game. If you want a studio that doesn't do crunch, you can look at... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was actually going to comment, like, I think where you're kind of heading into that direction. Do you see there being either an end to the crunching or like a climactic something just is a complete utter failure that ceases? Like, will we ever learn from this?
No. video game studios can unionize, and that's about the only defense they have. Right now, the way this stuff generally works is that the team works on a game, they put out the game, they do whatever it takes to get the game out in some semblance of on time, and then many of the people working on the game are contract workers that are immediately fired once the game is out, and they keep a skeleton crew or a crew on staff to work on either expansions or updates or whatever. So the industry is notorious for not treating the people who make the games well, which is... why the argument whenever this comes up is, well, couldn't we just like boycott the next Red Dead, Rockstar, CD Projekt Red game and teach them a lesson? And the people who love business come back with, well, it's not fair to the developers. Well, those developers have already been fired by the time that game comes out. Like, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm not gonna buy Cyberpunk, and that's just because for a long time, but I will eventually get Cyberpunk, in the same way that I got Red Dead the day it came out, but I hadn't heard about Rockstar's crunch problem until a few weeks later, so, but, yeah, I don't know, I mean, some studios do it right. Yeah,
What kind of studios does that typically be?
Usually the ones that are, again, have some type of rights in place for the workers. So generally your big budget AAAs, EA, Blizzard, Ubisoft, those are awful. Basically any AAA game comes as damaged goods. Like, in the same way that I look at an engagement ring and go, I don't want to think about this too hard. In terms of where the diamond came from. Sorry, I just realized that was existentially. I love my fiance. But the smaller indies, A, can have a tighter group, and B, will generally work better and have some better compensation. Although if the group is really small, like 2 or 3 people, then you do get the aspect of, this is our project and I'm working 16 hours a week. But those are generally, like, I think Shovel Knight had that kind of process, where it was like a 3 or 4 person team working 16 hours a week. But I'm playing Hades, gotcha. And Hades has a documentary about its development. As far as I know, it's not damaged. Really? Yeah.
Where can you find that?
Hades just got out of early access on the Epic Games Store, Steam, and just came to the Nintendo Switch. It's already in a lot of people's Game of the Year discussions, which is a lot for a $25 game. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, you know...
You say there's a documentary?
Yeah.
That's cool. Is it on YouTube?
So there is a documentary series detailing the production of Hades. And maybe I will have figured out what it is, and we can link it in the show notes. But Hades is just a roguelite. It sold 1 million copies, which is real good for an indie game.
Right.
So it follows, like, Greek myths. You play as Hades' son, trying to escape the underworld to go meet your mother, and the Greek gods are sending you boons and stuff to try to help you. So each time you play it, you get a little bit better. It's very Dark Souls in that way, and it's a roguelite, which goes from Rogue Legacy series of games, in that each time you do a run, you get a little bit better. And each run has a purpose to what you can do. You can gather resources to unlock stuff back at your base that will help you be stronger for the next run, or you can try to break out. And they construct... It's a dynamic world. I've done 30 plus runs, and they do... have different dialogue each time. Like, people you meet in the dungeon as you're escaping will comment. If you come at them with a different weapon, they'll comment on it. If you're fighting them for like the 5th time, they'll comment on it. If they killed you last time, they'll make fun of you for it. I've not got a repeat line of dialogue. And they do, I just want to shout out the developer as for one more thing, and we'll move on. But they also worked under the assumption of, like, yes, we associate Zeus and everybody with the Greeks, but this isn't a game full of white people. So like, the gods come from everywhere. You'll have Artemis looks like a Pacific Islander. Athena is a black woman. And so the idea is like, why it doesn't make sense to bind the gods by ethnicity. Like, they're from the world. so they reflect that in how it looks. The art in the game is gorgeous. It's just hitting all cylinders, I think.
Right. It definitely, just from your description, it feels like the developers care. Like, I feel like I'm downplaying it when I say this, but care about the project and did everything in its power to make it, like, all the small details count. Which add up.
Man, it's very good. Y'all should play Hades.
Well.
That's my pitch.
Mini pitch. Hades.
So, mini pitch within the pitch. Yeah, I'll be sure to download it after this, actually. I mean, I've got nothing else to do besides edit, so I'll definitely be playing and tell y'all what I think. So, to go from positive back down to negative, because that's what we do here, is complain about things. Did y'all hear about Cineworld?
I did not. I don't even know what that is.
All right. Well, Cineworld is essentially, well, not even essentially, it is a UK theater chain. They own Regal Theaters in the United States, which is, I believe, behind AMC, like the biggest national branch of movies. Yeah, Regal Theaters is the second largest branch of theater chain behind AMC. They have announced, I believe, as of this recording yesterday, so by the time we released this, probably about 3 days ago, that because of the No Time to Die delay, which has been delayed until next, I think it's either March or April.
The Bond movie. That's the upcoming Bond movie.
Right, the James Bond movie.
I was like, the No Time to Die delay. And then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it's right there. It's the new Bond movie. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the James Bond No Time to Die movie delay until March or April. Because of that, they have decided to shut down all of their theaters in the United States, all the Regal theaters, and then all the Cineworld theaters are in the UK are also shutting down for the time being due to, and I quote, the industry becoming unviable.
Perfect. It's perfectly reasonable. If they can't make any, if they can't make any money, of course they're going to shut down. And then, I mean, on top of that, the cinema shouldn't be open in the meantime anyway. It would just encourage the spread of the virus. So, in addition to this being fiscally responsible, it's also humane. So, I'm on board. I'm glad somebody's taking this pandemic seriously, even if they needed a financial incentive.
Right. No, I wholeheartedly agree with the decision. It is more or less just
sign of the times.
Right, exactly.
How many people are now out
there's
of a
nothing we
job?
can really do about this. Exactly. Thousands of people are out of a job because, like I mentioned, it isn't like a small town dollar movie theater. It is Regal. Yeah. So
what I find kind of interesting is I actually have like no idea what a Regal. I've never seen a Regal cinema. I think because we're here in Texas, I mean, I just see Cinemark and AMC. So you're like, yeah, this is massive national brand, and I'm like, it's insane that I've never heard of it. That for me, it's like you're introducing me to like Skechers or some shit. Like I never heard of Skechers before, and I'm like, it's been
or like Johnny Rockets
or like Johnny Rockets. It's like the always has been meme. It's just my mind is blown.
Right.
We have a Regal in town. I guess we don't now. But we don't have Whataburger, so you guys win.
There was a Regal. I have a Regal in town, or well, I did until Grant told me.
Whataburger. Wait, what's your opinion on Whataburger?
Oh, I just said we have Regals, but you guys have Whataburger, so I think you win.
Oh. It's overrated, man.
Shut the fuck.
I'm
quitting the podcast,
man.
Next pitch, Whataburger.
It is,
and then we're done. You hear me? We're done.
It's you can't go there unless it's after midnight, and it's just dry. And I mean, it's comfort, and there's a lot of food, but like,
what the fuck?
It's just okay. We'll do a pitch on fast food restaurants eventually. Andrew, what were you saying?
I wonder what this means for. They already announced. Like, Black Widow was delayed. They were pushing Wonder Woman back to Christmas. Dune is coming out at Christmas. I wonder if we're going to see those get pushed back further.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
know how long can you push back.
Well, the other thing is that, Disney and Warner have outlets that they could push those movies to.
Right.
I'm not sure. I've heard different things about how well Mulan did. I've heard both that it was a disappointment and that it was a success from different articles. So I'm not sure what it actually was.
Wait, was it like
maybe mediocre?
Okay, so it was like a critical disappointment but a financial success? Or
no, I just mean financially, period. Like, I've heard financially both ways.
Oh.
Because
interesting.
They won't care about the critical success of it for money making necessarily. Right. I mean, they probably don't want to put out anything that they know is going to be dog stuff. Or if they do, they want to do it direct to and not make a deal out of it. But Bill and Ted did gangbusters for, like, what it was. Like, it made a tidy sum as a direct-to-video or direct-to-on-demand movie. Granted, it's a much smaller budget to make back, but it's also a much smaller interest. So, I wonder if, like, Warner and Disney have a different outlet than a theater. They can beam it straight into your home. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily sure who owns James Bond and how they would work that out, but...
No, I think you do have an interesting point to make. I mean, I think because, like, I'm seeing a lot of these delays. Like, I know Fast and Furious 9 is getting delayed to, like, May or June, right? How long can you keep delaying before the financial... Like, before it becomes more of a burden, right? To keep these films in stasis before actually releasing them. So, like, I think VOD is going to have to become the new norm, and regardless of pricing, I mean, like, they're just going to have to make more deals. I think what this does mean is, what I think this does mean is that, like, animation is probably going to be, like, you're going to see a lot more animated movies and shows in production over their live action counterparts because you can make those at home, right?
Hell yeah.
We have the capacity and the technology to do that. I mean, if you saw the South Park special, they did it all at home, and obviously that's crude animation and very cheap, but I mean, it can be done. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest sign of the times for 2021, 2022 movie and show releases.
Could be. It's funny how we're, like, reflecting the last century, because around the 1920s is when Nickelodeons became, like, really popular. Now we're just basically going back to that.
History repeats itself, baby.
I can't wait for World War IV. It's going to be sick.
Just skip 3?
Yeah, 3 is going to be like World War I, and that sucked. But
that's going to be the prequel.
Yeah. But I'm basing my opinion on which World War was better on my experience with video games. So, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, all those.
Right.
Versus the one Battlefield 1.
How do you want to transition this, Vic?
I don't want to talk about it.
What do you mean? I think we made this exact same joke last time.
I did. But my Fight Club references will last as long as they have to. It's one of the rules.
Which rules?
It's like the fourth one. I don't know the rules off the top of my head. But yeah, let's talk shop, guys. That's why we're here, right? Fight Club.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my pitch for this sesh. We were going to talk about the either the movie or the books. Apparently, my two colleagues have taken upon themselves to watch both to experience both the movie and the book. Myself, I just rewatched the movie. And, I mean, myself, I first came into Fight Club. Yeah, it was an actual Fight Club. No, I first was exposed to Fight Club on G4. I don't know if any of you know what that is. That might be like a super old reference by this point. It was this channel. It was like channel 67 on Time Warner, and and it was about video games. This was before YouTube was a thing, before like IGN blew up or whatever the fuck. So channel 67, you could watch it. They'd have shows that would like review, like it was 30 minutes of them reviewing video games. And then they had kind of like a variety show called Attack of the Show. And for a certain period, they would play like cult classic movies, Office Space, Starship Troopers, I think. I could be wrong about that. And Fight Club. So that's where I first saw Fight Club. I was playing billiards in my house with a bunch of friends, and I just put G4 on because I was looking for something to watch. And I saw Fight Club was on, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? came in halfway through the movie, and then I was like, oh, I've got to watch this entire thing. So it was just me timing it, and I did. I saw it. Of course, at that age, it's probably open to a lot of misinterpretations, and you get the wrong idea from watching the movie. But I don't know. Right. Myself, I saw it. I was like, okay, it was cool. I liked it.
When you say timelines, just based off a timeline, how old were you? You said before YouTube was a thing.
Well, like before YouTube like really blew up. So I was probably like 15, 14. No, I was younger. I was younger. I was like in 8th grade. I was like 13.
Like prime age
to watch Fight Club.
The movie very seriously and very literally.
Yeah, it wasn't a good time, but no, I didn't end up doing that. So that's a good thing. And then I remember, I don't know about y'all, but in Dallas, Texas, they had like a program where they would obligate you to read for a half an hour every day in school, in high school. Which, you know, I mean, obviously no one can relate to that now. There's no way they do that for online schooling, right? But in any case, they literally just sat us down and forced us to read. But they never, like, looked at what it was that we were reading. And one of the books in the bin was Fight Club. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm totally going to fucking read this book. I didn't even know it was a book. So I picked it up, ran through it, and then that was that. And then I was like, yeah, I fucking dig this. I think it's a good movie. That's why I'm encouraging other people to watch it. Obviously, there are a lot of ideas going on here, and it's actually surprisingly mixed, a lot of people's view of this movie. So that's why I want to discuss it. I just wanted to pick your brains because we're doing this whole podcast. And, Grant, I understand that, well, for the assumptions of this podcast, we're going to assume that everybody here knows what Fight Club is. Grant, I'm sure that you had some interesting opinions of it. I want to know, how did you get over the knowledge of the twist?
Yeah, I think that is a great point. So obviously, even though, as I mentioned in the last episode, I had yet to see Fight Club or read the book before this pitch. So I was, it's kind of like The Sixth Sense, right? Or movies with that Shyamalan-Ian-esque twist. Like, why would I watch it when I know what the biggest pull of the film is? I think it definitely tainted the experience a little bit. Not necessarily that I thought it was bad. I just think that like it does lose a little bit of luster just naturally. I think thankfully the film it's just a good movie technically. Like it's just technically sound, solid, great acted. Fincher's a fantastic director. So I think that's probably like why I loved it so much, right?
You like cinematically appreciate it.
Oh, without a doubt. One thing I feel like I should, and this is going to make me totally sound lame as hell, but I feel like that's just every episode. For whatever reason, up until 2 weeks ago, I totally thought the protagonist was played by Kevin Spacey. And so whenever I was reading the book, I was like envisioning Kevin Spacey as the narrator, right? And, he has such a detached, I guess, acting style or whatever. And so that's how I was interpreting the original narrator. And so when I saw Edward Norton, I was like, who is this jackass?
I think Kevin Spacey was doing Seven at the same time as Edward Norton was doing Fight Club. And, I mean, it would be hilarious to see Kevin Spacey from Seven opposite Brad Pitt. Holy shit, that's actually what happened in the movie. It would be crazy to see them in Fight Club. It would be crazy to... You're not wrong. I think it would be far more entertaining if Kevin Spacey was the narrator. Just because of how hilarious.
The reason I say that is because, like, in the book, and I don't know if this was just because I thought I was Kevin Spacey the whole time, but when I read the book, and Andrew, I'd love your opinion on this, when I read the book, I got the vibe that the narrator protagonist with no name was more of a detached, kind of depressed going through the motions guy, whereas in the film I kind of felt that Edward Norton, and I don't think either interpretation is bad, but I feel like Edward Norton kind of came off as like a dope that was just being followed by Tyler.
A dope.
Like kind of, I'll follow you, Tyler, to whatever.
I don't really get that myself. When I read it, when I watched the book, when I watched the movie, it seemed to me like he was just tired. Like I really get not just like the insomnia that he experiences, although I did feel that. Like the makeup that they did to this guy to make him look absolutely drained was fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think Edward Norton is a method actor, so it's possible that he was literally just staying him up, depriving himself of sleep or whatever the fuck. But in any case, the way that he talks in like that monotonous tone, it's relatively consistent throughout the film. It really did make me feel like, yeah, this guy's just exhausted, that his life is shit and it's not the way that he wants it to be. And that's why he has that kind of air about him. I didn't really think of him as a dope, just like the first victim of Tyler's, which is again himself, the first victim of Tyler's way of thinking. Because if you look at the entire book, like I know that Andrew, you really put it like a really interesting way. When we talked about it last week, I think. But you said that it's kind of like, what was it? A manual for, what are they called? Not simps, the other ones. I lose track.
Incels.
Thank you.
Incels.
Not the antonym of simps. Yeah, like I get that.
Okay.
Because you're watching Tyler and he's clearly being glorified in the film, even though he goes to like some extreme lengths later on. And I do think it's open for misinterpretation where people watch the film and they're like, oh yeah, Tyler Durden is something you should aspire to be, which is a mistake that the narrator makes, right? Because that's the entire premise, is that he literally had to split his personality, do some psychological gymnastics, and now this is what he thinks a person should be like. This is what he aspired to be. And then he realizes at the end of the film, this was a mistake.
Number one, I don't think at the end of the film he necessarily thought it was the end of the film did not give me the impression that Project Mayhem was over. It gave me the impression that the narrator had united his two parts, or rather he had just adopted the stuff from Tyler that he had needed, and Project Mayhem was continuing. Because the buildings are coming down. Like, the thing he was trying to avoid couldn't be stopped. But he's still giving orders. Like, he's taking control. He's doing the stuff we haven't really seen him do, necessarily. Yeah. But I would say it's more telling, like, Tyler is clearly meant to be the alpha, obviously. But it's interesting to me, because when you read the books, every line Tyler said, this is obviously true, but every line Tyler says is from the narrator. Like, nearly every line. Like, the monologue about God, that was the narrator in the book.
Right.
A bunch of monologues that they gave to Tyler were originally the narrator's thoughts. Now, in the book, they say it a lot more, Tyler's words coming out of my mouth, because obviously it is, but I think they just...
Spoilers for Fight Club, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's already come up. It's already been said.
I understand that, like, the fucking buildings, because Edward Norton wasn't able to stop it on time. But when he shoots himself in the mouth to, like, get rid of his hallucination of Tyler, I actually interpret that as, like, a rejection of Tyler, for the most part. Like, at least the more extreme elements, right? So he wasn't able to stop the buildings,
sure,
but he's like, oh, it's a brave new world now. But we're not going to do it Tyler's way.
Right. That's what I'm saying, is that he's ending it. Like, that's not what I got from that ending. Like, I got that Project Mayhem is continuing and the narrator is in charge now.
I know that in the books he goes to an asylum, like, immediately after.
Can we talk about that ending?
Which one? The asylum and the... Yeah, well, sure. Go ahead.
Well, I guess just like...
You guys read the book, so you have a more, like, fresh interpretation of that. Mine is 10 years old.
Well, in general, yeah. For those that are unaware / didn't read the book, aka probably almost all of our listeners, the book ends with, instead of Marla and our protagonist watching the buildings fall, Marla and one of his therapy groups deciding to go and save him, and make it last too raw, but then the protagonist shoots himself and he wakes up in a mental institution where his caretakers say, "We look forward to your return, Mr. Durden." Honestly, the movie played that off much better, which is why I think the movie overall is definitely a better.
Oh, I agree.
Better watch.
I think the movie is a better presentation than the book of the story than the book.
I mean, I think Chuck Palahniuk agrees. That's why when he did the graphic novel sequels, he picked up from where the movie left off, not where the book left off.
Right. Do you want to? Did either of y'all go into the sequels?
No, I just read their summaries on Wikipedia, but I wasn't going to get into the graphic
I didn't realize
novels.
there was a
For me,
Yeah. All I know is it gets super meta, and there's a bunch of fourth wall breaks, and it's just bad, and we try to forget it.
Yeah,
and we don't talk about it.
That sounds like Chuck Palahniuk's later writing career in general.
What did you think about the themes of, I don't know, how consumerism kind of like breaks us down? In the middle of a pandemic, this is like the perfect time to discuss it because we basically, most of us have to kind of take a break from it, you know? I think it's a good opportunity for reflection. What do you think about, at least his message early on in the film, about how the things you own end up owning you?
You think we're taking a break from consumerism?
I am, at the very least. I don't participate in the economy nearly as much.
I mean, Amazon's making bank. Video game companies are making bank. I think consumerism is alive and well in the pandemic. It's just
the brick and mortar is crashing.
Yeah, but like you say, in the term, like the pandemic is speeding up a lot of cycles that were already on the way. Like, brick and mortar was already, like, headed towards the executioner's block. I think that...
That's fair.
Fight Club is confused by people because I think Fight Club is a good dark comedy that's treated like good philosophy. Like,
I agree.
Like, the stuff it's
that's
espousing,
without
it
a doubt.
is inherently guilty of.
I think that people tend to take it more seriously than they should.
The most obvious thing is, like, there's the scene on the bus where Jack, the narrator, points out the Calvin Klein model, and is like, "Is that what a man looks like?" And Tyler's got the whole self-improvement is masturbation,
It's
whatever. And then the immediate next cut is Brad Pitt jumping up without a
Jagged
shirt,
obliques.
looking much better than the Calvin Klein model. So, I mean, like, it subverts itself in a lot of ways. Like, we're told, the narrator tells us that he is fantasizing about death on the airplane, but in the scene he had just had with Marla right before that, he was the one looking both ways for traffic. Marla was the one walking through. So I think what they tell us and what they show us are in conflict.
I think that's kind of like to the point. I think that's the point of the movie. Like, because Tyler Durden specifically tells the narrator, like, shoving feathers up your ass and saying you're a chicken does not make you a chicken. Like, you're experiencing your premature enlightenment, and then it goes into the scene where he does the whole kissing on his hand and with the lie, and it burns him, and yada yada. Like, Tyler calls the narrator out on this when he talks about, "Oh, you really want to die? Well, you look both ways when you're in traffic. You won't even let me crash this car unless I talk to you for like 20 minutes." And when we get to the point where when we talk about Tyler and his message about that particular criticism, when we're talking about the Calvin Klein model, and then you see Brad Pitt ripped, surrounded by screaming men, covered in fake blood. I mean, his argument at the beginning of the film is kind of how consumerism is tearing away at us. Each of us individually. And then when he goes into Project Mayhem, he does the exact same thing. He shaves all these people's heads. They're all part of just one continuous mass. It's the same thing. He just repackaged it. And that makes him a hypocrite. And I think that's the point. It's that, you can't... I think it's a criticism of people who are trying to sell you on an idea. I was reading... Instead of reading Fight Club, I'd actually been in the middle of reading a different book.
Instead of doing your job.
Yeah, instead of doing my job. We don't get paid for this. It's not a job. And it's not
Science.
And also it's not your job that defines you, and it's not your fucking khakis, Grant. But I'd been reading a book called Alamut, which is basically a historical fiction novel about the founding of the Assassins Guild, which I don't know if you know, just some background. It was a radical group of Muslims that performed very public murders of important Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. I think Assassin's Creed was actually partially inspired by this book. Like, I think that's overt knowledge that you can find on, like, Wikipedia or something. They've made references to it. Mm-hmm. But in any case, the idea is that you have this old man of the mountain, Saiduna. He sells these people on a false premise and has them do what he wants. And towards the end of the novel, one of the protagonists realizes what happened. I'm not going to spoil it in case anybody has any interest in this, but I see a lot of parallels between Tyler Durden and this old man of the mountain trope, where you have someone who asks you to, how do I put this? He gives you a way of breaking out of whatever funk you're in, whatever monotony you're experiencing. He's like, I have an alternative and it's going to improve your life. And for a lot of these men, it's Fight Club. You know, they feel like, oh, this is a way of expressing myself despite the fact that my job is tearing me down. And then he, for the most like ardent believers, he brings them into Project Mayhem, saying that he's going to offer them the same kind of release, when instead he just incorporates them into this insane terrorist group. So in that aspect, you know, I find it to be a compelling criticism of that kind of leader.
I mean, I have, you know, I don't, it's probably like, I feel like Tyler is like, you're using him as I've met Tyler Durdens in life, and they were all assholes. Yeah, they're just,
they're all named Kyle.
I mean, I think that's, again, kind of the point. When I watch Fight Club, I don't want to be Tyler Durden at the end of it.
Right. I think the issue is that so many people do.
Right.
Like, I was watching the trailer for the film, and I went onto, like, the YouTube comments, and I was like, this movie changed my life. And I was depressed before I saw this film. And after Fight Club, I am a new man.
Well, that's entirely the thing, though. They missed the point. It's kind of like, it's exactly like Starship Troopers in that aspect. It's exactly like Starship Troopers. People think that they watch it and they're like, oh, fascism is sick. And and then it turns out that's not the point at all. At least of the movie, right? We're not talking about the book.
Right.
I think that's exactly what happens with Fight Club, that people miss the point. Yeah. They think that Tyler Durden, and I don't know if that's the fault of the movie or if that's on the individual people who misinterpret it. That for me is always like a weird subject.
I think it's the fault of the movie, because the movie does build Tyler to be, that's why they give Tyler all the best lines. Like, that's why Tyler is Brad. Like, who? If you have the choice, are you going to be Brad Pitt or are you going to be Edward Norton? Mm-hmm. Now, I realize, in reality, you know, they're both, like, incredibly handsome, talented men.
In reality, it's actually a really decent choice. Both of them are not me right now.
In reality, like, there's no losing option, but...
Yeah, it's a win-win.
But, you know, I think if the misunderstanding is such, I think the film should have more waypoints. I don't think the script is very tight at all. Like, there are, like, the whole bit about, I hate when movies have just arbitrary conflict, like the whole never mention me to Marla. If you mention me to Marla, I will be gone. And in the book, they kind of just only have one scene that kind of deals with that. But in the book, in the movie, it's this absurd thing where Tyler's fucking walking through and around all the time while Marla is also around, and he's just there to go, don't talk about me. And I'm like, there's a reason why saying, you know, don't talk about the elephant in the room is like, nobody talks the way they, like, Marla and the narrator talk in those scenes. Like, the whole, what are you doing in my house? Fuck you. Okay, then she walks out because it's a plot convenience to avoid having any sort of conversation. And then they do that numerous times. It's just, I felt like the dialogue around that was all very awkward, especially that they kept going back to that well. Like, it just is very clumsy. But Grant, it was your first time seeing it. Did you feel that was weird?
I don't think it was that annoying to me. Like, I obviously thought it was better done in the book, but that's just because it's a different medium, you know, and you're not having to see those cross cuts or those, like, visuals of Marla walking out and Tyler walking in. overall, because there are, I would say, dozens and dozens and dozens of hints rather, that Tyler and the narrator are the same person. And thinking back objectively, like, I didn't feel like any of them were necessarily too obtuse, but were more fun hints. Obviously, some landed better than others. Like, I loved how the phone booth said no incoming calls, right? And yet there's a call, and it's Tyler. That's our first introduction on the other line.
When he beats himself up and he's like, for some reason, I thought of my first fight with Tyler.
Exactly. So I don't think it was, obviously some, like I said, some landed better than others. That one, the playback of the narrator essentially beating the living crap out of himself in front of two dudes. Like, how does that start Fight Club? I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think anything was distracting, I guess, per se.
No, I'm not talking about the hints that Tyler and the narrator are the same. I mean, literally, the obstruction, like, the only thing that keeps them from figuring it out is the fact that the narrator can't talk about Tyler. And it makes no sense for the narrator to not talk about Tyler in any of his scenes with Marla. The only, like, time their whole thing worked was...
Well, I mean, it made sense where the scenes I think of is when Marla, like, pops down and he's like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? And she gets offended and she leaves. That makes sense to me, more or less. There is the part where Marla, like, fondles him and he doesn't mention Tyler at all. That I was like, that's weird that you're not like, yo, this isn't, what are you doing?
Right.
Because I would understand the instruction of, like, hey, don't talk to her about me. Not like as a literal don't ever mention me ever period, but as kind of like, if I was interpreting that, if someone talked to me about that, I'd be like, all right, fine, you don't want me to, like, go into things that you've done before or things about your character or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that one time where he does try to talk to Marla about her relationship to Tyler, and Tyler's like, what the fuck are you doing? Which is, I'll admit,
right. That was the one time where I felt like
it's a bit contrived.
Double talk worked for me, was where they have the line of, why does a weaker person feel like they have to latch on to a stronger person? And she goes, well, why do you do it?
And he's like, that's not the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that. That was the one time where the dynamic of not talking about it, I feel like, strengthened it or worked. Like, it was supposed to get played for laughs, but it was not, like, of Tyler just in and out and all around. But, like, it just took me out of it. I hate, like, the arbitrary... That's just what I'm saying. Like, and it's from the book as well, but the arbitrary block of, oh, you can't talk about me to her at all, period. And then to expose that so much just got in the way for me with the movie. Because it's like, this whole movie could be solved an hour earlier.
If she just called him by his name once.
But we just have created this one illogical point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So I don't think that the script...
Do you see Marla Singer as like a weakness of the story, or do you think that she has, like, anything to really add to it as, like, a motivator? What do you think about Helena Bonham Carter in this film, basically, and her character?
I mean, I think Helena's great. Helena's great in everything. I think Chuck Palahniuk hates women.
Oh, it could be.
I don't think her character added anything in the film. Does that make sense? Like, it just, like, if I took her out, besides, like if I took her out of the film, how does the movie change?
Yeah.
I really don't, beyond like becoming a damsel at the end and him getting to, have sex, I guess, which is tight. But beyond that,
sex is tight.
Sex is dope. Beyond that, does she bring anything to the table as a character?
She provides the first conflict between Tyler and the narrator.
The initial, right.
But also, like, I mean, the book just has problems with women. Like, she's the only, aside from Chloe, who dies, she's really the only female character. And Chloe is only used for sex jokes.
Yeah, what's that one quote? What's that one quote by Tyler? We are a generation of men raised by women.
I don't think another woman is really the answer we need.
Right. We're a generation of men raised by women is another woman what we really need. And I'm like, well, I was raised by a single mother for a while. I mean, I think it's far more competent to focus on the difficulty of, like, if you get, like, the strength that takes, really. I think it's immediately discounting the fact of how awful men are, because they seem, in this world, they're always the ones who leave, but B, raising kids is hard, especially if you're a woman in a world where, like, the narrator is just angry at Marla for having access to the same spaces as him. Like, that's the most white dude thing possible.
Well, actually, I don't think that that's an accurate description of that, because his problem is that they're there simultaneously,
and he just can't stand the fact that she's there.
Yeah, but because she's faking,
he's obsessed with her being there.
He doesn't see her
So
as
is
like
he.
a woman that's invading the spot. He sees her as another faker who's intruding on the spot. They even split like the days. That's their entire first interaction.
I'm sure the distinction that she just happens to be a woman is...
Well, I mean, I personally don't see it as like, oh, this woman faker. Like, if it had been any other faker, he'd probably have the same problem, because that's how he describes it. I don't see it as she just so happens to be a woman. I actually just see it as like, okay, she just happens to be a chick. Like, he just doesn't want to be there simultaneously with her, because her being fake about it ruins his fakeness. He even says it. He's like, her lie reflects my lie. And that's the part that irritates him. Like, I would understand if he was like, no, you can't do this shit at all. But they come to a compromise. They split the days. Except,
obviously, she can't be at testicular cancer, even though he was the only one who had an issue with her being at testicular cancer.
Right. I don't know. When I see that, I'm like, they're probably just too uncomfortable. Because, like, how would you even, if I had no testicles, like if my testicles were removed from some tragic cancer or accident, and a person who clearly hasn't ever had testicles came into the room, how would I don't know. I don't know how I would be like, why are you here?
I feel like she is far more accurate in that she has more right to be there. She has no testicles.
Because she doesn't have her balls.
And she has more in common with Bob.
She doesn't have balls. Yeah. I want to kind of connect...
Dude, I fucking love Meatloaf in this movie, honestly. But sorry, go ahead.
I want to kind of connect this point to what we kind of mentioned on consumerism, because this film was made in 1997, right? I'm pretty sure that's right. 1990s for sure. Okay, but 99. In an era that is completely different from now, particularly as we mentioned with the financial security. Back in the 90s, in the grunge days, I feel like it was... We were running... And Chuck even mentioned this in a few of his interviews that I watched. Like, he was very tired of the security of it all, of the day by day, whether it be financial or socially. And now I feel like we're running into times, particularly post the '08 recession and this recession. And
you know what's really crazy? How health insurance is still shit. People have been complaining about that shit since the 90s. I know that Marla makes that reference. She's like, I don't have health insurance. It's just too much. And it brought flashbacks. You know that song, You Only Get What You Give?
The Pixies?
No. No, it's not the same band. It plays on like those stations that play older music. But this one is from the 90s, or at least early 2000s. But there's literally a line where they're like, health insurance sucks. And I'm like, dude, why have people been thinking this forever and nothing has changed in that regard? But sorry, go.
No worries.
Sorry.
What I wanted to mention was just like how nowadays, like, there is a sense of comfort, and at least for me personally, I want financial security. I want to be able to buy a duvet, I want, like, because so many of us are not in that position right now. I think a lot of the issues we've been talking about are just the differences in how this movie is aged from 21 years ago to today.
I think that a Fight Club is the union that essential workers need. Like the grocery store clerks, the people running the buses. Like, in the time of the pandemic, Project Mayhem is probably the union that those essential workers need.
And it speaks to that when Fight Club came out, it was super big in Silicon Valley. All those software engineers and workers, they actually started starting legitimate Fight Clubs. It wouldn't surprise me if which also explains explains why this shit came up on G4. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you told me, yeah, game developers are crazy for Fight Club.
I mean, Fight Club is the Breakfast at Tiffany's, is the college guy dorm Breakfast at Tiffany's poster. Like, if you have it's right next to your Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas poster, and that one Pink Floyd poster of the naked ladies with the albums at the bottom.
That was me.
It's the perennial poser movie. I think that it boggles my mind that it's still relevant. The fact that we're still talking about Fight Club 20 years later. Because I went through a creative writing class in the mid-2000s, just back when Hemingway and everyone else was alive. And Fight Club came up literally every week in that creative writing course. It became a running joke that it's like, oh, this was like Fight Club. Oh, it's Fight Club. But it was also only on the guys' stories. Like, I've never met a woman who was like, yeah, I love Fight Club, which is probably pretty telling about the themes of Fight Club. My fiance brought up, when I literally walked downstairs and was like, we're doing Fight Club in a couple weeks. And she goes, ugh, I just watched a video where white nationalists are using the pissed off white guy speech from Fight Club to recruit. And I was like, that seems weird since the whole movie is about anti-consumerism.
Which one? The one where Brad Pitt's like, we're not going to be rock stars or movie stars?
I think like, we don't have a war. Our war is culture or whatever. Because culture war is a big white nationalist thing. So, and I said, that's weird to me because my reading of the movie was always anti-consumerism and like anti-boss, like anti the people in charge. And I still have that read of the movie. That didn't really change. Like, I didn't. And she goes, yeah, it creates this feeling of anger and resentment. And the key is to, like, point that in the right direction.
I don't really see Tyler Durden's, like, organization as anarchist. It's very well run. It's like terrorism. It's like a more benign Al-Qaeda. Until they blow up the insurance company buildings, then it's American Al-Qaeda.
Well, I mean, I just mean in the terms of like they're trying to bring about anarchy. Like that was their end goal of bringing. I think that's almost what they said. Isn't that like what they said when they said that erasing the numbers and putting everybody back at zero would just be anarchy?
Puts it all back to zero.
Yeah, I like that. Feels like such a 90s plot point, like in the same way that it's like, oh, I'm gonna hack this thing and it's going to. I was like, that shit's backed up in 5 different places. We ain't ever getting out from under this debt. Get the
hack
server
the mainframe.
He's not wrong. It would cause total chaos, but for like the wrong reasons. I think that kind of like if you like take a look at the things that Tyler does. For example, the having a student wait 3 days without food and water before you let him in. It's like you get the impression that he's trying to mimic, what he thinks Buddhist militarism is. He's like, yeah, exactly. He verbatim says that. He's like, just like the Buddhist monks. And it's like, right. Yeah, but they don't actually do that. And then he's like, oh, well, we're going to blow up the buildings and reset everything to zero. I actually think it makes sense in context of the story, because of course someone who's trying to change their life would still be ignorant to think that's how things work, because Tyler is smarter, but he's not like
Tyler is limited
omniscient
by literally our
exactly.
like the narrator. Like he is. I definitely find myself struggling, which is a testament to both, I guess, the book and film. But like I do occasionally struggle to delineate, or like I struggle to remember that in fact they are the same character, and that Tyler is just a projection of the narrator's true ideals and his strengths and weaknesses. So as a leader, like he might think Tyler is the best leader in the world, but it's really him. So like all of his weaknesses and all of his flaws and ideologies are like, while I do think that Project Mayhem was surprisingly well run, there is going to be plenty of flaw.
What gets to me is like, how do they know when Tyler's in charge and when the narrator's in charge? Is it really just demeanor? Because there are times where they listen to the narrator, like the whole Robert Paulson thing.
Well, no. I mean, they don't see, like they don't see, like Tyler is clearly leaving like that's the first rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. So when I come around asking about Fight Club, they think that that's why the guy's like, is this a test, sir? Like they don't see the difference between Tyler and the narrator. The narrator is Tyler, and the narrator is Tyler. Did I just say the same thing twice? Whatever.
Then for me, that makes the movie, like, and the concept of the story way better.
That's why, whenever, like, if it was, then it would make sense for Marla and the narrator to be having these conversations. But they're the same person. Everyone knows that, but the narrator.
Then the rules for Fight Club were, like, way better constructed than I thought.
Yeah, really, with the police officer, like, he told, like, you said you'd say that. Oh, you said you definitely say that, like, don't cut off my balls.
I didn't even think about the part where the narrator goes around asking about Fight Club, and it didn't even pop back into my head, well, the first rule of Fight Club is not to talk about it, so this isn't going to work. Like, of course the narrator would never realize that. He was just following after and gets lucky. That's actually really well constructed. Right. I think. That's cool. Holy shit.
He saw the evidence everywhere he went because they still called him. We don't talk about Fight Club.
You're pitching yourself.
I'm now more impressed. I'm now more impressed by the story.
I will say I like how the book. Tyler is essentially the devil on the narrator's shoulder through most of the book, whereas in the movie Tyler is a fleshed out character, or in fact Tyler is the best parts of the narrator, literally. Which, you got Brad Pitt. You're not going to give him a small
I do think
role
Brad Pitt
fresh
did
off of
a
Seven.
phenomenal job. As much as we have qualms with maybe the character in itself, I think Brad Pitt himself was great.
Yeah, and I mean, the character probably doesn't get misunderstood as much if it's not Brad Pitt doing it.
Tobey Maguire.
I think we would have a very different view of Tyler Durden.
It wouldn't be believable, though. I don't think it'd be believable, though. Because even Brad Pitt says, like, towards the end of the movie, I didn't just invent some loser, referring to Edward Norton. But you are right in that respect, I think. If they had maybe chosen someone less magazine-y, for lack of a better word, it would probably be easier to interpret, despite the fact that Brad Pitt.
But like you said, I think like that is. I think the effect would have been diminished almost in a sense. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, don't take movies too seriously. Just because Brad Pitt is telling you that this shit is cool doesn't mean it's actually cool.
Yeah, just don't do what you see in movies. Just listen to the advice your parents gave you when you were 3 and you thought you could literally fly. You can't. It's just a movie. Yeah. Remember that. Remember that. And but seriously, when are we starting a fight club?
Well, you guys could start a fight club. I would have to fight myself, which kind of goes into like who walked out of a bar and saw one guy hitting himself and was like, I want to get in on that. How
the hell do you see a guy beating the ever living crap out of himself and be like, I want to follow him? That guy's dope.
The only human reaction to that is to like keep walking and give an even wider berth, or turn around and just go back in there. It's like, you know what? I don't need to leave.
I need to sober up, guys. What am I witnessing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Although I do think, Grant, this pod would be the excellent time to make the reveal that we're actually all the same person.
Well, who's the real one? Who's the real one of us?
I mean, shoot yourself in the mouth. And whichever one of us is still here. That's the real one.
I'm assuming I'm the real one, right? But like, what are you guys my projection of? Like, Tyler is the man I want. Like, if Tyler is the narrator, like, or if Tyler represents what the narrator wants to be, I don't want to be either.
I'm clearly your Tyler Durden, and Andrew is your Marla. Clearly.
Technically, that makes far more carnal relations between me
exactly.
And Victor. Yeah. And you never see us in the same room.
Yeah. It's not happened.
True. These literally two, never happened. For our listeners, these two have technically never met.
Don't talk to real life. Don't talk about me to Andrew.
One quick, I want to see, we'll probably cut this because it's not even remotely important. But the one plot hole I really saw in the movie was the splice porno thing
with the noise,
where Tyler puts in just a reel of a porno movie and ruins Snow White or whatever. there wouldn't have been sound in the theater. It was just the audio. It was just the visual. Fight Club ruined. No, Fincher, a hack.
0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. They did say at the end, this is a fun fact I got from listening to the commentary of the writer and the screenwriter. At the end of the movie, there is the quick flash, and it's a penis. The studio demanded that it be that it have black pubic hair, so that nobody could accuse it of being Brad Pitt's penis.
That was really well thought out on part of the studio.
Yeah. So, and that was also the best joke on the commentary, was Chuck Palahniuk saying, so when people ask if I had a part in the movie, I say, I had a small part. He then quickly followed up with, no, that wasn't true. That was what I learned listening to the commentary of Fight
Did you guys know that the first adaptation of Fight Club was a 6-episode OVA anime?
I knew it. Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
That is also not true.
Oh my god. Does it also have mechs?
Did you know that it also defied time and space by coming out in the 80s?
Exactly.
No, but what's crazy to me is that it's like a totally novel idea. The fact that like a concept of a Fight Club didn't exist before the book blows my mind. That's like some insane originality.
I mean, it's a UFC fighting.
I think you meant like the disassociative personality.
No, right? I meant like the concept of underground boxing.
Oh, the literal.
Where there are these.
I mean, like, no, bare knuckle boxing and like, UFC literally started like 3 years prior. So it'd just be, and UFC back in the day in the early 90s didn't have rules except for no biting. No biting and no ball grabbing.
No five-finger death punches.
So, I mean, essentially that is probably part of the inspiration. I know he was actually inspired because he got punched in the face one day on a camping trip, and he went back to work.
And nobody talked about it.
No one would acknowledge the fact that he got beat the shit out of, because, I don't know, in my eyes, why would you? Like, why would I? Like,
right.
Oh, dude.
Really? Really? In my eyes, why wouldn't you?
I mean, if I don't know the guy, I mean, if it's my best coworker buddy, for sure. Hey, are you okay? Is anything wrong at home? Etc., etc. But like, if it's Chuck Palahniuk, who's already kind of like seems like that dude who would get into fights, and just be like, yeah, he probably got into a fight.
I guess I'm just, I don't know, more precocious.
If you see freaking random ass Joe, if you see Charles from accounting with a black eye or whatever, and you don't know Charles from accounting, except that he's kind of just Charles from accounting, you just, I don't know, you just walk by. It's a big ass firm.
I'm gonna be like, damn, Charles, damn, they fucked you up, dog. I'm totally gonna mention it. What are you talking about? I'm not gonna like pretend to throw a punch or some shit.
I'm just discompassionate.
But I would totally be like, damn, dude, what the fuck? What happened? Damn, Charles, you're always, but I'm more friendly. So I guess
whatever.
So I guess I'd be like, yo, Charles, damn, dude, let me get you some coffee. They look like you fucked you up.
I should see the other guy, huh?
Hey, I'll say it in Italian. I'll dip into the Sopranos inspiration. Hey, you should see the other guy. Yeah. No, but I don't know. When he mentioned that story, it seemed weird to me because I was like, I would totally be like, what the fuck happened? Charles in accounting, we're both in the same elevator. I wouldn't say I should see the other, I wouldn't ask if I should see the other guy or some shit, because it's a cliche, and I realize that people appreciate like originality. He'd probably be more like receptive to it. If, hypothetically speaking, if I was like ever replaced by an alien clone of me, you'd know that it wasn't me if I didn't do that. So that would be your thing test, you know? Instead of doing the blood exam, just punch yourself in the face. And then if I see you and I don't make a comment about it, then it's a thing. Which is also...
I meant pitch Fight Club.
Pitch Fight Club?
I think if I was going to do it... I think if I was going to call somebody out on it and be like, yo, man, you didn't get any treats. You just got tricked straight up.
Fine. Okay. I'm going to keep that because I loved it, but I meant like, hey, do
I recommend this movie? Well, clearly I do. I pitched it.
Or, hey,
I didn't hear,
do we not recommend this movie?
Yeah, no, he wrote it. He put Victor pitched the movie, and I was like, the next one? I already pitched the movie. That's why we're here, Grant. No, yeah. I mean, obviously I recommend the movie. don't be stupid and misinterpret it for your white nationalist agenda, please. And if you do, don't say that I told you about the movie. At the very least, if you're going to do some like messed up shit, please do not implicate me. I'm not interested in being involved.
Coming full circle.
But yeah, I like the movie. I think it's entertaining. I think it's funny. I think it's worth a watch. And you know, any movie where you get to watch what's his face? No, 30 Seconds to Mars guy. Jared Leto. Any movie where you get to watch violence simulated on Jared Leto is an instant win. That's why I like American Psycho.
Except for Suicide Squad.
It's a lot of Jared Leto hate out of nowhere.
Suicide Squad, just I love Jared Leto, and I love 30 Seconds to Mars. You know, like that's just a great, fun, old dandy time. But Suicide Squad is bad. Anywho, Andrew, overall pitch, no pitch.
Yeah. Morbius looks very good. Anyway, I mean, yeah, it's a good dark comedy. Don't treat it like a philosophy 101 course.
Agreed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. Very good movie. Very fun movie. Don't take the movie seriously. The themes are not as profound as you may think they are. They're profound. It's like the Lorax. It's like Baby's first Anarchy book. It was like the first time anybody heard somebody go, hey, maybe capitalism is bad. Which is why, again, I can't believe that it's still popular today, because at this point I feel like, of course, the world's on fire.
It should be more popular. Right? It's kind of your argument, really, because Fight Club says that verbatim. The world's going to get fucked.
I mean, my argument is basically that it's a starter kit. It's not.
Yeah,
maybe definitely. It is just 101, and I'm amazed we're not at 102 by now. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you want to try to make that same transition again, or is it lost? Because if not, I'll just...
That was a lot of improv on my part, Grant.
Talking about, the trick or treat from Andrew.
Well, just to circle back around and get us out of this, I think if I saw my coworker beat up, which granted I work with like 10 people, so it's we definitely would comment on it in the office. It would be like, damn, it looks like you got tricked and no treats. Which takes us to Halloween. Grant, why don't you tell the dear listener what...
Yeah, let's do that. Just for clarification, if it was the same office that I worked at with Andrew, I would have most certainly commented, I love you all. Thank you for hiring me in the first place. Anywho, so yes, our next pitch is going to be a little different. We are doing our very own spooky Halloween special. Woo!
You should edit that.
Go.
I recommend you include like a woo. Not like that.
Like that, yeah.
That just sounds all like
right.
Well, it's now included. It's right there.
We'll get it done in post.
It was like the world's saddest, oldest orgasm. Woo!
Jesus.
I told you.
All right. So for our Halloween special, what we decided to do, instead of just picking one movie to talk about, pitch, and review, we each decided to choose our favorite Halloween film. Obviously, after seeing some of our picks, it doesn't have to necessarily be a movie about Halloween, but just the film that we identify the most with spooky season. So, to start, Andrew, what are you pitching us on?
I am pitching us on the beloved classic, works for 2 holidays, watch it twice a year. I'm talking, of course, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Love it. Victor,
Groundhog
what you got? What?
Nah, I'm doing the thing.
This wasn't in the show notes?
I'm doing the thing. I remember when Dead Space came out. It was in October of 2007, and I played the shit out of it. And since we're doing movies, I'm just gonna choose the movie that's closest to Dead Space. I'm choosing The Thing. It's a good horror film. Horror is Halloween, man.
There's got to be a Thing video game.
By the way, if you're wondering why Victor didn't choose the John Carpenter film that is literally about Halloween, it's because
I've never seen it.
Which is just, well, okay. Whatever. Anywho, my final pitch.
Ugh.
Oh, that looks terrible.
I actually heard it was
so
pretty
bad.
decent for the time,
Oh,
surprisingly.
Nice. My pitch, it's showtime.
They're looking at the
We are
video
pitching
game.
you
Sorry,
on
that was
Beetlejuice.
It's an audio podcast and nobody saw what just happened.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. Yeah, the Thing video game looks bad. At least in my eyes. Apparently it's less bad. Anywho, I'm pitching you all on Beetlejuice, the ghost
Don't
with the
say
most.
it twice more.
It is. Oh, yeah. I think I've already said it twice. Anywho, fantastic film. Campy as hell. Zany, off the wall. Alec Baldwin, my crush, love forever. Winona Ryder. Cult classic. To fit the theme that we've been kind of hitting on is those cult classics. So anyway,
Isn't she your mom's age?
Winona Ryder? Yeah?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
Okay. Oh,
She's aged like fine wine.
okay.
It's like Gwen Stefani is like 52, but she's also perfect, you know? It's just modern medicine and
Being rich.
Plastic surgery. Exactly. Anywho.
Yeah, I'm more of an Olivia Wilde, Shakira
To recap.
type guy, but respect.
That's disgusting.
She was good in Stranger Things.
Anywho, for the third time. To recap, I will be pitching Beetlejuice. Victor is pitching 1982's The Thing.
3.
4's The Thing. And then one of those. And then Andrew will be pitching us on The Nightmare Before Christmas. So, as I mentioned, we're going to watch all 3 films, come back, discuss our overall opinions, what these movies mean to us, our thoughts on all 3, why Victor's movie is just so totally off kilter, and etc.
Boy, you're trash.
In the meanwhile, as we do that, we will see you all in 2 weeks. Make sure to follow this podcast, spread the word, follow us on social media, Instagram, The Pitch Pod, at Twitter, pod_pitch. And make sure to spam us with all your questions, thoughts, criticisms, hate mail, love mail, and
follow us
etc.
on Twitter.
I did that
Follow
already.
us on Twitter, please.
I
have no one to tweet to.
Leave a review, tell a friend, tell all your friends, tell your friends' friends, friends of friends of friends. Make sure to interact with us by wasting your next couple of weeks obsessing over our Halloween films of our choice and your own favorite spooky season films. Cue Space Rock.